Welcome to another MESBG Wargames YouTube channel video. I'm Chris, and today I'm going to be doing a Middle-earth strategy battle game tournament review of an event I went to about a month ago now, October 2nd. Yes, it's now November 7th, something like that. So a little while coming, so I thought I'd better get it done before I forget absolutely everything that happened. So I'll get straight into it. Before I do forget in this short time, I took, sorry, not the camera, it was a 600 point event. I took my Survivors of Lake Town, which I talked about in a Build Me an Army Worthy Of video, which should be uploaded, well, I should hope so, because I did it before this, and that was the idea, to do that first and then take a tour and see how I did. So I'll pop that in the link below, so if you don't know, haven't seen that, go check it out now. But I'll quickly run through what I took Bard, obviously, because you have to, otherwise the army doesn't work. And he was leading 7 and 7 Shield and Spear, I think, and then Sigrid, Tilda and Alfred. I believe that's about right. Percy was leading 12 Lake Towners with bow, 10 of which had spear, I think. Hilda was leading something like 4 and 4, Shield and Spear, and Bilbo was leading something like 6 and 6, something along those lines. It was 42 or 43 models. Like I said, go back to the link below and you can see exactly what I took then. Like I said, it was a month ago, so I can't remember the exact workings. But it was unique to me in that it was predetermined scenarios. It's been a long time since I've been to one that worked like that, a couple of years now. Usually they're all random on the day, but it was game 1 Hold Ground, game 2 was Contest of Champions, and then it was Fog of War. So 3 I don't usually play that often, so I was looking forward to playing it. This definitely wasn't a GBHL event. I'm not sure whether it was Southern League. Might be wrong, it could well have been. It was on the Southern League page, that's how I found the event, but I'm not sure it was actually Southern League camping, I can't remember. So, yeah, it was in Canterbury, 600 points like I said, 3 games, each 2 hours long, which was nice. 4 games usually kills me. I always lose my 4th game on a tournament, but 3 games, perfect. I always feel tired coming in 4th, especially having to drive home as well. So 3 games, 2 hours each, plenty of time to get 600 points done. No, it might have been 2 hours 15 actually. So yeah, I turn up and I'm drawn Hold Ground. So my original thought was Lake Down, 40 something models. Great, I've already got a good chance just by sheer number count. And I was drawn against Hobbits with a lovely guy called Callum. It was Hobbits with Treebeard as well, so it's 63, 64 models, something like that. Yeah, it wasn't your traditional Hobbit build. It was heroes that I hadn't played before, because it was a couple of the new ones, the Mayor and might have been 3 of the new ones actually. Oh, I can't remember their names now, I'm so sorry. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Hold Ground, 60 something Hobbits against my 40 something Lake Town, plus he had Treebeard. I was like, oh, goodness. So I rolled for priority, so I came on first. Not when I do a start, you always want to come on second in the Hold Ground. And I came on the bottom right hand side, everyone but Bilbo. I think I spent a might with Bard to make sure, because I did Hilda first because she had the least might, and she came on down in the bottom right. And Percy came on next to her as well. Bard, I think, rolled 1 short, so he spent a might point to come on. I thought Alfred would give him back that later, which incidentally he did. Yeah, everyone but Bilbo came on. He then rolled badly for 1 of his warbands, which didn't come on. He rolled low for his second warband and decided to come on behind me, which he was debating whether to mic that, but he didn't know whether he put me on behind him or way the other side of the board, because he didn't have much mic with these new heroes, and they had like one each. So if they rolled a 2, it's that, do they spend all might just to not come on, then roll Valley again next time? So that was quite lucky for me. So one more band he came on behind me, one more band he rolled poorly, didn't use the might, so I sent him the other side. So I thought I could put almost half of his, or a quarter, one of his hobbits, behind my army early and take it out, but then if he rolls, I'm just going to bring it all on behind there with Treebeard as well. So I sent the hobbits way over in the corner, they've got a long way to come over. You then roll for another warband to come down like here somewhere, so at the bottom corner down here, another one half on the edge down here, another one like there like I said, and then he had Treebeard, another warband to come on behind me. So he had about half his army with Treebeard behind mine, and I was only missing Bilbo and 6 or 8, whether he was leading. So the initial plan was to hold up Treebeard, because there's 2 cottages, sort of about just enough room for Treebeard to get through, basically, at 60 mil base. And then some scatter houses along, and then the objective in the middle, obviously. So my plan was to squeeze my entire army through. Percy would go around the other side, so I'd have to split his hobbits up if he wanted to chase me down. Because his hobbits were slower, it took him longer to get round the houses and through. So I kind of plugged the hole, charged one dude into Treebeard as a sacrifice. The idea was just to hold him up, and if he spends a point of might to come back through, great, that's Treebeard and might down, or it just keeps him still for a turn, either one. Even better, that little Lake Town of Spearmen wounded Treebeard and took off 2 of his fate, which was really handy. So then meant he was there next turn to hold him up, and the next turn Treebeard did heroic combat to get closer, because I was starting to get through these 2 cottages and starting to sort of funnel all these hobbits, so their numbers really didn't count for much. And then Treebeard started to make his way through. He thought I left Hilda slightly exposed to try and bait Treebeard in towards getting her identical heroic combat, and then go into for the next phase, as it were. But I had Bard in range, and Alfred did give Bard some might back, but he also took one for himself, so I had Alfred sitting there with a might point as well. And Percy decided to come back and charge the hobbits that were starting to, they couldn't decide whether to swing round, follow Percy towards the middle, or to follow in with the rest of the army towards Bard. So Percy charged back and was dealing with that warband, so that was about 15 or so hobbits out of the game. So it was Percy with about 6 he took with him, and because I took spears and everyone, the battle lines, there was still 2 on 1, because obviously you can't spear support. I did the charging, took them out of the game, so then the rest of my dudes could, so at least send some towards the middle, because I was very conscious of his warband up this side. I hope I'm making this make sense. Like I said, I had Bard in the middle, Hilda was my sort of bait for Treebeard. Treebeard went towards her. Next turn, Bilbo came on. He came on directly behind Treebeard. As he came on, he put the ring on. Then the next turn, when Treebeard was ready to charge Hilda, Treebeard was down to 1 might at this point, I think. Alfred called a heroic move for me because I lost the roll-off, and he decided not to counter with Treebeard because he thought he'd need a heroic strike against Bard, knowing that Bard was coming in, but not realising that Bilbo was 4 inches behind Treebeard. So Alfred calls the right move, in charges Bard, pins Treebeard, all my dudes come in and charge all the hobbits, so you got house, Treebeard, a few hobbits here, all my dudes come round Treebeard and charge, so they can't counter-charge into Bard, a few dudes with axes charge into Treebeard, and then he had his priority, obviously hobbits being slow, couldn't reach up to help Treebeard, and then Bilbo was able to move into Treebeard and halve his fight value, and I took him out in 1 go, so he was trapped. Bard had to use 2 might on it. It was very handy that that dude already took 2 fate off a tree bid, otherwise you might want to survive. Kind of needs to do it in one go because those numbers would have taken off quite a lot. But as long as I could get build by then, it didn't really matter. But I did take out tree bid in one go, and then from there I just kept winning fights. I was able to leave very few stragglers behind to take up the rest of his army, and I moved in towards the middle with the bulk of it. And then from there I got to the middle first because I was faster than the guys coming the other way, and then he stood there throwing rocks and shooting because he didn't. I went over the objective a little bit, so the objective was here. I went over it a bit, about 6 inches, so even if he charged in, he still wasn't in range, and he didn't think he could win the fight, so he held back until the right point where he'd won priority. He stayed back, and then I charged him. And I pretty much wiped everything out in one go, especially with Hilda's +1 to wound within the 3-inch guys, meaning I was wounding on 3s. It was quite nasty, so I did almost table him bar 1 Hobbit. So it was a cracking 12-0 win to me. It was still a very good game, close up until even when Treebeard died, really, just because of the sheer numbers of it, but they're slow moving and low defence in the end, and not able to spear support in the end meant I had 2 attacks, re-rolling 1 every time, sometimes winning on 3, so as long as I could pick the fights and free hero combats from Bard as well, meant I chopped through Hobbits relatively easy. So game 1 was a 12-0 win, so I was feeling pretty good. That was a pretty tough matchup. And so going into game 2 was Contest of Champions. And that was against Ross, who was taking... I was worried about the army itself, but not the hero. So Contest of Champions is the one where the hero has to outkill the other hero. And he had Gothmog without shield on foot. Or did he have shield? Excuse me. I'm not sure whether he had shield or not, but he was definitely on foot, so I was immediately like, my killing power is way higher than yours. However, he had like 40 something Morannons, which all are higher fight value base, higher strength, higher defence, so he's wounding me on 4s because he gets the +1, 3s on my back line, and I wound him on 6s. So I was quite worried about the lines clashing, but as long as I can get Bard killing, I'm not really that fussed. He was a really nice guy, and I didn't want to play it in a way of, because the hero has to deploy with 3 into the middle. I didn't want to deploy everything else back and then just move away and make the most of my shooting kind of thing. That didn't feel like that kind of tournament, that kind of game. So I literally just deployed everything on the centre line. He deployed everything in the centre line. We just, even though I thought it was probably a bad idea, given that his killing power on his line is better. I think that's what he was hoping on, was that his orcs could do a lot of damage to me, and then Gothmog would just mop up a couple of dudes, pick up some, just kill 2 a turn. If I called a free hero combat with Bard, then he'd get 1 for free for his Master of Battle, that kind of thing. But it didn't tell that way. Everything he rolled in the duel fight, whether it was a 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, I'd roll 1 higher. And I just won everything, and with the piercing striking and Hilda in there, meaning that could wound Morannons on 4s, so across the line I was just, if you lined it up again 8 times out of 10 he wins. But it's just one of those ones where I just kept hitting everything, and Bard was able to pick off, well, going to 2, heroic combat 3, charging to another one, and made sure I kept 6 inches away from Gothmog, or if I was within 6 inches I'd make sure that Gothmog was only fighting 1 and then couldn't go any further, or wasn't in combat or whatever, so I limited him as much as possible. So I feel like I did well in that respect, but Bard, I think, killed about 12 in the end, and Gothmog was on 3. His heroic combats, he also had Gorbag and a Shaman and a Captain, and their heroic combats and their stuff just wasn't going. It was one of those ones, so it was a 10-0 in the end, because I wounded Gothmog but I didn't kill him. I killed 3 times more with Bard, but I killed 3 times more. So it was a pretty standard sort of like a to the death sort of match, but my line just won out in the end. That's all there is really to say about that game. Nothing special really happened. It was just everything went right. So yeah, that was that was a good win for me as well. Going into game 3, I was paired against CJ. He had a very different army in that he had a front line of black Numenorians, half of which were actually Army of the Dead, backed up by Moran and Spears, and he had the Shadow Lord and the Witch King, and a couple of Morgenstalkers and a Ronan Banner. So it was an elite, quite condensed force of about 25 or so models, I think, maybe close to 30. So I outnumbered him, and this was Fog of War, by the way. So my initial plan taking it into this tournament was Fog of War, you have to keep one of your heroes alive, and I thought Bilbo wearing a ring would be perfect. He had 2 wraiths, so they could still do their bits to him, but everything else still affected it, so it was a bit less effective than what it might have been. But anyway, Fog of War, I chose to, well, my only option was to try and kill the Shadow Lord, because the Witch King was the leader, there needed 2 heroes. I decided to keep Bilbo alive, why not? Would mean then he'd have to pump a lot of his magic and whatever into Bilbo instead of Bard, so then Bard could go off and do other things, that's fine. And we had 2 objective pieces on each side, could have been 3 actually, and with my sheer weight of numbers I was just able to pelt it towards one of them, and he'd have to sacrifice something quite big. That's the trouble with the condensed elite force, everything's important, so he didn't sacrifice anything to go get a terrain piece. So I was able to claim that one pretty early on, just sort of steamroll down the side. I made a couple of orc trackers on Wild as well. He spent a few turns coming forward towards me because I deployed as far back as possible, even though he had the Shadow Lord, because it's deployed then back 12. Even though he had the Shadow Lord, I still got 4 or 5 turns worth of shooting. It's still worth having a go because he has no ranged weapons, why not? I might get something, and every turn I managed to kill one thing. So hitting on 6s, wounding on 6s, and about Numenorians. I was trying to go through towards the Shadow Lord because maybe I get lucky. I think I did get lucky. I think I took the Witch King off his horse quite early on actually, because he was in the way of the Shadow Lord as well. Yeah, like 4 or 5 in the ways towards the Shadow Lord because he knew that's my only option to kill the VPs. Yeah, every turn 6s to hit the front rank or second rank or whatever, 6s to wound. So 5 or 6 Numenorians and rounds went down, and that was quite big. That's already like a quarter of the way to breaking. Which on like 13 dice, re-rolling ones. I don't think that's unreasonable. One a 10. So yeah, then the lines hit, and then it was a case of my numbers were able to. My bowmen were this side, the rest of my army was sort of around this side. So he came into the pincer, as it were. Bard was way back here with his kids, Bilbo was in the middle here, so all the big stuff was this side, and the archers were back here with Percy. So he kind of wanted to avoid all the big stuff, but that meant he'd then go towards my archers, which were slightly moving back to get more shots, and then eventually I just sort of close in like this, and he was immobilising Bard to stop him from charging, which I didn't really resist because I wasn't in combat with him. His banner effect still works, it's passive. So I wanted to save its will for when I'm actually in danger, if I'm being transfixed, which there was one where I initially charged in. The CJ rolled 6 to immobilise me while I was in combat, and then I rolled 6 to resist, so I got to keep both, and yes, that was pretty telling, pretty lucky. Eventually Bard was able to, because he only needs 5s for the Numenorians and the Morannons, he was able to come back through gradually, whittle down, a couple of dudes each turn. I lost a few guys on my side, but ultimately numbers told. He black darted Hilda quite a lot, and I knew that was his objective was to kill Hilda, and she did die probably before the lines met actually, so I knew he had that those VPs that one up on me before the lines hit, so I was losing, so I was chasing the game early on, but I knew I'd get that terrain piece like I said at the start, because I was bobbing towards that, but I knew he wouldn't be able to claim my terrain piece because there's so many models in amongst all the terrain as well. Yeah, I broke him, the Shadow Lord was starting to get low on will, Bard did eventually kill the Witch King, after a couple of, the Witch King had the Mortal Crown as well, so he has 3 attacks, pretty scary, and Bard did bosh a couple of his combats against the Witch King. He had Bilbo in there as well, which they didn't affect by any, but a couple of chances. The Bard lost a couple of fights, was able to survive. Bard won a couple of fights, couldn't do any wounds, and eventually he did kill the Witch King. Bard's horse, I think, somehow survived against the Witch King, like 3 dice twice. Witch King needed 4s, and he got 3s, like two rounds in a row. So that was really lucky as well. There might have only been 1 round of combat, and then he just tried to go for the man, which he didn't wound. But yeah, eventually just able to whittle down, and the game ended at... It did randomly end. Shadow Lord had long run off at this point with only 1 will, so that was the only thing I didn't score. But I did manage to keep Bilbo alive and unharmed. I claimed my terrain piece. I broke him and I didn't break. So it was 9-6, I want to say? Or maybe I did break back. Yeah, maybe we both broke and that's worth 3 each. I think the only difference in the end was that terrain piece. Potentially. Oh, I can't remember. I know the final score was 9-6 to me, so I did win the tournament and I won a very nice, I should have brought it out already, very nice limited edition New Zealand coin collection, some quarter-cent coins. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, overall it was a really, really, really fun day. The army worked an absolute treat, even though I was drawn up against a couple of unorthodox armies, but it still managed to pull through. So yeah, I hope a lot of that made sense. I was trying to remember a lot of it off the top of my head. It was a month ago, trying to describe best I can. I'm a little cold at the moment, so got quite a bit of a headache trying to remember. But hopefully you still enjoyed it, and see why my Build Me an Army video was good advice. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe, and see you next time.